A propeller sits crated in straw at a dockside in Brisbane, Queensland, its three blades still caked in red New Guinea mud. It is April 1944. Nobody in the shed has unpacked the rest of the airframe yet, but the man doing the unpacking already knows what he is looking at, because the cowling behind it carries a shape every Allied pilot in the Pacific has learned to fear and misidentify in the same breath. This is a Japanese Ki-43 Hayabusa. The aircraft American pilots keep calling a Zero, even though it belongs to the Japanese Army, not the Navy. It was captured near Hollandia days earlier, dragged out of the jungle in pieces, and now it is going to be rebuilt, bolt by bolt, inside Hangar 7 at Eagle Farm. What the men in that hangar find inside the wing root will not just explain why this aircraft turns the way it does. It will force Allied fighter pilots across two theatres to unlearn the one dogfighting habit that had kept them alive. The unit doing the work is the Technical Air Intelligence Unit, Southwest Pacific Area, TAIU-SWPA, a scratch outfit of American and Australian personnel whose job is simple to state and brutal to execute. Take wrecked or abandoned Japanese aircraft out of active battlefields, rebuild them using whatever parts can be scavenged from sister wrecks, and fly them against Allied fighters to find out exactly what they can and cannot do. The line chief on this rebuild is Staff Sergeant William Garza, assisted by Staff Sergeant Hall, working with parts cannibalized from a second Oscar recovered nearby, and a wrecked Ki-61 Tony, sitting in the same field. This aircraft has no manual. There is no factory drawing to consult. Every measurement the men take, they take with their own hands, because the only Ki-43 technical data the Allies have ever produced came from watching one fly away after a dogfight, not from taking one apart. Before the men in Brisbane open a single access panel, it is worth understanding why this particular airframe matters more than the dozen Oscars already shot down and left to rust across the Pacific. Most captured Japanese aircraft in 1943 and 1944 arrive as scrap a wing here, a fuselage there, too damaged to fly again. This one is close to complete. It can be rebuilt to fly, and a flying Ki-43 tested against a flying P-38 or a flying Spitfire tells Allied intelligence something no gun camera film or pilot's combat report ever could. Not what the Oscar did in one fight, but what it is physically capable of doing in every fight. If you're the kind of person who reads a captured aircraft rebuild report the way other people read a thriller, you're exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe, and you'll get the next one of these the day it goes up. The reports nobody else is pulling out of the archive boxes. The men begin, as they always do, with the airframe stripped bare. They peel the fabric and metal skin back from the wing and find something that should not need explaining but does, because so many Allied pilots have spent 2 years assuming otherwise. The Ki-43 is light, empty. It comes in under 4,000 pounds, roughly 1,200 pounds lighter than a Spitfire Mark V, and nearly half the empty weight of a P-47. There is no armor plate behind the pilot's seat. There are no self-sealing fuel tanks. Every ounce Nakajima's engineers could strip out of this airframe, they stripped, and every ounce they saved went into one thing: the ability to turn. One of the Australian riggers on the crew, working the wing root, stops halfway through removing a fairing panel and calls Garza over. Tucked into the leading edge of each wing, running almost the full span, is a flap assembly unlike anything either man has serviced on an American or British fighter. It isn't a simple hinged flap that drops down at the trailing edge for landing. It's a Fowler-type flap. one that extends backward on a track before it drops, increasing the wing surface area at the same moment it changes its camber. And it isn't wired to a single landing gear linked switch. It has its own control, separate from flaps used for takeoff and landing, meant to be deployed by the pilot mid-turn, in combat, at speed. They write it into the report in plain terms: combat flaps, operable in flight, not merely for landing configuration. It is the kind of line that reads flat on paper and detonates the moment an engineer who has flown against Oscars actually stops and thinks about what it means. Because for 2 years, Allied fighter doctrine in the Pacific has rested on one core piece of advice, drilled into every new pilot arriving in theatre: never turn with a zero. Never turn with an Oscar. Dive away, use your speed, use your dive, but do not try to outturn a Japanese fighter because you will lose. What Gaza's crew has just found is the mechanical reason why that advice was necessary, and proof that the margin was even wider than anyone flying against it had realized, because the Ki-43 could reshape its own wing in the middle of the fight to tighten the turn further still. Somewhere over Hollandia, that same week, the New Guinea campaign is grinding through its own separate arithmetic. Allied troops pushing west along the coast, while fighter squadrons fly cover overhead, still meeting Oscars in the air, still occasionally paying for a pilot's decision to turn instead of dive. The report being written in Hangar 7 is not academic. It is going to be read by men who will be in the air against this exact aircraft within weeks. The crew moves on to the engine, a Nakajima Ha-115 14-cylinder radial, putting out roughly 1,150 horsepower, modest by 1944 Allied standards, nowhere near the output of a Pratt & Whitney R2800 in an American fighter of the same year. On paper, this should be an unremarkable, even a disappointing, power plant. But paired with an airframe this light and a wing that can reconfigure itself in a turn, modest horsepower stops being a weakness and becomes almost irrelevant to the aircraft's core threat. The Ki-43 was never built to win a race. It was built to win a turning fight, and every design decision downstream of that flap, the weight, the wing loading, the engine choice, bends toward the same single purpose. Gaza sits back on a toolbox for a moment, wipes his hands, and says nothing for a while. It's the kind of pause that doesn't make it into an official report, but survives anyway, in the memory of the men standing around him, because everyone in that hangar has just watched the same fact land twice. Once when the flap mechanism came into view, and again now, doing the arithmetic on what it means stacked against an airframe this light. The next layer comes when the crew gets the aircraft running and takes it up. Test pilots flying the rebuilt Oscar against American fighters over Australia in mid-1944 report a turning radius that embarrasses anything the Allies have in theatre at low and medium speed. With the combat flaps extended, the Ki-43 can turn inside a P-40, inside an early P-39, inside almost anything short of the most nimble Allied types. And it can do it while bleeding less energy than a pilot would expect from a turn that tight, because the flap is doing part of the work that airspeed would otherwise have to supply. This is where the earlier finding stops being a curiosity and becomes doctrine. TAIU's reports on the type, folded together with earlier data on the Zero, which uses a related philosophy without the same in-flight flap system, harden the standing order that has already saved Allied lives piecemeal into something taught deliberately, in briefing rooms, to every pilot rotating into the Pacific theatre. Use altitude. Use diving speed. Use the heavier armament and the tougher airframe of your own aircraft, and never, under any circumstance, accept a turning fight with an Oscar at its own game. A second finding, quieter but just as consequential, comes from the fuel system. Stripped of armor and self-sealing tanks in this earlier variant, the Ki-43 carries fuel in bare metal tanks with no protective lining. A single incendiary round that would scorch a paint job on a self-sealing American tank can put this aircraft's fuel supply on fire outright. Allied pilots have already reported this in combat. Oscars that burned easily, in the language of after-action reports. But seeing the bare tank sitting exposed in the wing, with nothing between the fuel and a bullet but sheet aluminum, turns an observed pattern into an explained one, and it changes how gunnery instructors brief new pilots on where, specifically, to aim. One man on the crew, cataloguing the tank installation for the report, simply writes that there is no armor anywhere aft of the firewall and nothing protecting the tanks at all, and underlines the sentence once, because there is nothing more to add to it. Here is the finding that reframes everything the crew has documented up to this point. It is not the flap. It is not the tank. It is what the flap and the tank mean sitting next to each other in the same airframe. The Ki-43 was never designed to survive a fight. It was designed to end one before it started, to turn inside an opponent so fast that the opponent's guns never come to bear at all. Every gram Nakajima's engineers refused to spend on armor, on self-sealing rubber, on structural strength beyond the bare minimum. They spent instead on the one capability meant to make protection unnecessary. Don't get hit, because you'll outturn anything that's shooting at you. That is the entire design philosophy, sitting exposed on a workbench in Hangar 7, Brisbane, in the middle of 1944. And the moment TAIU's engineers understand it as a philosophy, rather than a list of separate features, the countermeasure becomes obvious and total. Refuse the turn. Every time. Take away the one advantage the airframe was built around, and the aircraft has almost nothing left to fall back on. No armor. No protected fuel. No structural margin for the kind of high-speed dive and recover fight the Allies are already flying. Never turn with an Oscar was already Allied wisdom by 1944. What Eagle Farm proves is that the advice isn't caution. It's the exact, deliberately engineered exploit of the aircraft's single point of failure. Squadrons already flying boom and zoom tactics against Oscars in New Guinea, the Philippines, and Burma lose fewer aircraft as the doctrine hardens from instinct into formally briefed procedure through 1944 and 1945, and Allied fighters, P-38s, P-47s, late-model Spitfires, increasingly treat the Ki-43 not as an unpredictable threat, but as a known quantity with one exploitable design compromise at its core. Several rebuilt Oscars from this same program, including sister aircraft recovered at Hollandia alongside this one, were shipped to the United States after the war for further evaluation, arriving at Naval Air Station Alameda in California. The ultimate fate of some of those airframes was never formally recorded. Surviving Ki-43s today sit in museum collections from the Smithsonian Storage and Restoration Facility to aviation museums across the Pacific and in Russia, most displayed with their flaps retracted, wings closed, looking, to the average visitor walking past, like nothing more than a small, unremarkable fighter dwarfed by the American and German aircraft in the same hall. What most of those visitors don't know, standing in front of the glass, is that the thin strip of metal along that wing's leading edge is the reason a generation of Allied pilots were taught, before they ever fired a shot in anger, to do something that goes against every fighter pilot's instinct. To see an enemy aircraft turning hard toward them and choose deliberately not to turn back.